Good morning. Hello and welcome. Welcome. Yeah, we'll just give it several more minutes. Yep, sounds good. Looks like we have a small group so far. Yeah. Probably more people will join. Yep, in several minutes. And it's early morning. I know. In the summer. Okay, hello everyone. I'm Jing Wen, the project coordinator with Digital Nova Scotia. Welcome to part 2 of the Social Media Management Program's webinar. Wordcraft, Tourism Nova Scotia, and Digital Nova Scotia developed part 2 of this program. Ingrid Deon from Wordcraft will give today's presentation. Ingrid is the CEO of Wordcraft, a social media marketing agency headquartered in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. Ingrid started her career as a journalist but switched to social media when she got an opportunity to work at a digital marketing agency, and then later she started Wordcraft in 2019. She specializes in organic social media strategy, content creation, and community management. She works with both large and small businesses. Some of her clients include Nestle Canada, Manulife Bank, Kraft Heinz Canada, the Red Cap Restaurant and Motel in West Pumpernickel, the opulent Alpaca in Inverness, Nova Scotia, the Young Oyster in Eel Lake. And Wordcraft also just finished working with Halifax Seaport Beer Fest. And this is a short overview of Ingrid, and today Ingrid will give the last session of the social media management programs. Also, we will have another round of social media management webinars in this fall, and we're happy to have you join us again. And if you, after this presentation, if you still have questions about social media management for Ingrid, you can schedule a free one-on-one consultation with her through the DigiPort website. Okay, during today's session, we encourage you to post any questions in the Q&A box below. And this webinar will be recorded and uploaded to the DigiPort website. Okay, I will hand it over to Ingrid.
Thank you, Jingwen. And
no problem.
Thanks to Digital Nova Scotia and Tourism Nova Scotia for having me yet again. I'm excited. This is probably my favorite webinar out of the 3 that I've presented. So before I get into it, I want to acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And I want to acknowledge them as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. Okay, so we're getting into tips for increasing engagement on your social media posts. So in the past webinars, and I think most of you have been here for all 3 or for the 2 previous ones and today's as well. So we talked about where, when, and what to post, and then we talked about creating a content plan. And so now we're going to just fine tune that and get some more engagement on all of your posts on social media. So we'll jump right into it. And as always, if you have any questions, anything that comes up for you, just put it in the Q&A box. I think the chat is disabled, so put it in the Q&A box and I will see it and I'll be able to answer and just interrupt anytime. So before we get into it too much, what is social engagement? So what are we even talking about? So engagements are likes, comments, shares or retweets, saves, clicks. It's really anytime someone takes any kind of action on one of your social media posts. And in this webinar, as in all of the webinars that I've given, we're talking about organic social media. So we're not talking about social media ads. So this is all like organic social media, just social media posts that you put out there that you haven't, that aren't part of a campaign. They're just part of your regular posting. And so this is, you know, engagement is like the list there. Anytime someone takes an action, often people get stuck looking at their follower count rather than their engagement rate. And I am here to tell you that your follower count is just a vanity metric. It's not really that important, but people get really, really hung up on, you know, oh, I have 1,000 followers, or I have 10,000 followers, or I have 5,000 followers, or, you know, any number. We often see that as a bit of a benchmark, and we see it as, you know, oh, someone has more followers, so they're more popular. Honestly, that's not true, because what is really the point of a follower if they're not engaging with you? So what you really have to look at, or what I find the most insightful, is looking at engagements. So how do we measure that? So we measure that with engagement rate. And when you post something, like when you boost a post or when you post as part of a campaign, when you set up that campaign, Facebook or Instagram they're able to predict what kind of reach you'll get and what kind of engagements you're likely to get based on the amount you're spending and the audience that you're choosing to target. With organic social media, you're just putting a post out there and you honestly have no idea what kind of engagement to predict, because it depends on so many different factors. It depends on, you know, whether the text that you posted with the post was clear or engaging. Was the image really interesting? Did it stop the scroll? Did the call to action make people want to click, or did it make people want to comment? Did you ask a question that people want to answer in the comments? Did you post at the same time as one of your competitors and maybe their post was better than yours? Like, there's so many different factors. So it's really hard to predict what your engagement rate might be. However, you can look at your engagement rate from your past posts and then make a determination based on, you know, maybe these types of posts perform best. If you look at the end of each month to see which posts had the highest engagement rate, then you can make an educated guess when you're posting something. Like maybe the posts that fall in your About Us pillar are the ones that perform the best or that have the best engagement rate. So you can kind of predict your engagement rate based on past your past posts. However, it's not an exact science, and you could post something that you did not think would get a ton of engagement, and suddenly it just goes viral. So it's very hard to predict with organic social. But how do you measure it? So it's measured by the number of engagements, like we talked about, likes, comments, shares, clicks, saves, relative to the number of impressions that a post has. And you can find these numbers in your insights. So you add up all of your engagements, you divide it by impressions, and then you multiply it by 100. So I'm going to show you quickly. And the benchmark is, for most industries, more than 2%, you're doing a great job. And for most of us, like small businesses in Nova Scotia, we don't have, millions of followers. So usually your engagement rate will be pretty good if you have a smaller number of followers, because, say you have like 5 likes on your post, but because you don't have a lot of followers, your organic reach is pretty low. So maybe you only reached a couple hundred people. Well, your engagement rate is going to be above that 2%, even if you don't have a ton of engagement. However, for like a big brand like Coca-Cola or something where they have millions of followers, they post something, maybe they get, maybe they reach 400,000 people and they get 1,000 engagements. Well, their engagement rate is going to be pretty low. So it's all quite relative, but you can sort of look at your posts and see what your engagement rate has been recently and make a determination on what your goal is. Like maybe your goal is higher than 2% because you're used to getting engagement rates of 5 or 6%. So that's sort of how to set the goal, but I'm going to show you how to measure it. So this is on Instagram, but you can get these numbers on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on TikTok, on whatever platform, Pinterest, whatever you're on. Just an example for Instagram. So these are all of the engagements. So this is the likes, these are the comments, these are the shares, these are the saves. On Instagram, on an organic post, you can't have a link in your post, so there's no link clicks here. So we add up all of the engagements. So 42 plus 5 plus 4 equals 51, if my math is correct. And then we divide that by the number of impressions. So if you scroll down here, you'll see the impressions, 357. So we do 51 divided by 357 times 100, which is 14%. So the engagement rate was 14%. That's really excellent, an excellent engagement rate. And so that is considered a good post. If the engagement rate was like 1% or less than that, it would be considered not a great post. So that's usually how we make the determination. And hopefully that makes sense. I know not everyone loves math, but we get a little bit mathy here. So yeah, the engagements, add them up, divided by the impressions, times 100 to get your percentage. So why do we even want to increase engagement? Well, the reason is to reach more people, essentially. That's what we want to do. It's social media. We want more people to see our posts. So the last thing you want is to create a social media post and end up talking to an empty room. We don't want to do that. We want to be social. And then like even worse than that would be like to talk to a really crowded room and get ignored by everyone. So that's not good either, right? So you want to be in a room with people and get people to engage with you. When someone engages with your social media posts, it helps the algorithm identify your post as relevant or interesting, and they're more likely to show your post to more people. So I think we talked about this before on the other webinars, but every time someone takes an action on your post, that's a good thing. The algorithm's like, ooh, this is cool, this is interesting, people are liking this, more people should see it. So that increases your reach and thus increases your engagement, because more people are seeing it and more people are going to like it, comment, share, click, whatever. When you increase your engagement, you can also develop more meaningful relationships with your followers. So unlike a blog or a website or a brochure or your email list or something like that, where you're talking to people, it's not a two-way conversation like a website. It's just you're talking to people. Same thing with your brochure. You're talking to people. You're not having a conversation with people. With social media, you are having a conversation with people. So you want to give people a reason to engage, and all of the social media platforms really want to encourage meaningful conversations. So if we can increase engagement, we can increase meaningful conversations. The platforms really like your account. You know, they'll be like, yes, this account is doing it right. They're getting meaningful conversations. They're developing relationships with their customers. We like this. We're going to, you know, the algorithm is really going to like you. You might have heard of something like called shadow banned, and it's so funny because I used to hear about people saying, oh, I've been shadow banned. People aren't seeing my posts anymore. People aren't engaging with me anymore. And I thought it was a bit of a myth, but then I took on a client that I believe had been shadow banned. So they were a mushroom tea company out of the United States, and they had, because, you know, mushrooms can be drugs and mushrooms can be mushrooms that aren't drugs. I think the algorithm thought that they were drugs. So the algorithm decided that their posts should not be seen by a lot of people because they thought they were drugs. So we really worked hard to turn it around and try to get rid of any hashtags or any keywords that could be remotely seen as drug-like and try to focus more on the tea and the fact that it's not psychedelic tea, it's just mushroom tea. And it has, you know, they're high in antioxidants and have a lot of different properties that they can't make a lot of claims about, but anecdotally. And so we really had to work hard to turn it around so that the algorithm, again, became their friend and was able to show their post to more people. Whereas I have other clients where the algorithm already likes them, so it's really easy to get more reach. So sometimes you have to really, like, as I've said many times, social media is not an exact science. It's really a matter of playing around and testing and learning and figuring out what works best for your particular company on social media. It's really, it can be really challenging. But you know, some of us love a challenge, so sometimes it can be a lot of fun. Any questions on, you know, calculating your engagement rate or why you should even care about increasing engagement? Just before we go into like some more tips. The Q&A, I believe, is open, so you can post anything in there. If you don't have questions, that's okay. I can just move right along, but I just want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to ask questions. Yeah, feel free. And you'll have this presentation afterwards if you want to refer back to it. And as Jingwen mentioned, it will be, the video will be available as well. All right, so I'll keep going. But as always, if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat or the Q&A, not the chat. Chat doesn't work. All right, so let's get into some of the different tips for increasing engagement, and I'll also show a bunch of examples. All right, so one of the ways to get more engagement is to create posts that people want to share, because shares are really great, because every time someone shares a post, you get to reach a whole new audience of people. You get to reach their audience. So whether it's sharing or retweeting, the shares are great. So the most shareable content is edutainment. That's what we call it. So if it's educational and it's entertaining, that's when you've struck gold. So we talked before about thinking about your ideal customer or your target audience whenever you're creating social media content, this is definitely an instance where you want to always keep that target audience in your mind when you're creating content. Put yourself in your ideal customer's shoes and think about what they want from you. What do they want to learn? What would they find super useful? What tips do they need to know? What would they think is funny? If you don't know off the top of your head what they want from you and what they want to learn and what they find useful and what they think is funny, then ask a few of your top customers why they like to buy from you and what do they love about working with you. If you can find that out, then you can create content that people will want to share. People like to share posts that are useful to them, that they have found useful. So if it solves a problem or teaches them something or shows them how to do something step by step, or maybe it's a valuable tip, or maybe it's something surprising that they didn't know before. All of those things are types of content that people want to share. So, I've got a list there: teach something, post a surprising stat, useful tips, solves a problem, funny posts. All of those things are really great social media content, some of the most valuable content that's out there, because it grabs your attention and it makes you want to say, hey, I just learned this on social media. I just learned this. And I think my friends or my contacts or my followers should know about it too. The last point there is capitalize on trends. We talked a bit about this on Twitter. When you go to your Twitter homepage, you can see what's trending. So if there are trending hashtags, trending keywords, trending topics, those are good to capitalize on if you can fit it into your business somehow. You can also subscribe to Google Trends, and they'll give you like notifications when something that is relevant, like you put in certain keywords that you think are relevant to your business. They'll send you a notification when something is trending, or that's Google Alerts. Google Trends is a list of things that are trending in different domains. Sorry, I got mixed up there. There's also the Discover tab on TikTok. There's a Discover tab on Instagram where you can see different things that are trending. So that's another great way of trying to find things that people will want to share. But the best thing is the really good edutainment type posts. So, I know you have tips that you can share. I know you have a lot of things in your brain that are really cool that people will find surprising or will find super useful. And sometimes it just takes like talking to someone. I find every time I do a webinar, all of the really cool tips that are in my brain come out, and I realize how valuable they are when I'm talking about them. But on a regular basis, I don't necessarily think that these things are super interesting. And it's probably the same for you, because you have all these things in your brain and it's just stuff that you know, and it might not seem super valuable or super interesting or super entertaining to you, but to your audience, it's gold. So maybe you might want to have a conversation with someone and try to get them to mine some of that gold from you, so that you can make a list of like a bunch of tips or a bunch of really cool step-by-step instructional videos that you can do, or surprising things about your area, your town, your business, your, whatever it is. Did you know type facts. So I've got a couple of examples here of some really highly shareable content. So this is one from Whole Foods. It's just a link. So this one, your call to action is a link, but a lot of people will share it because they will find it useful. And you can see below there's 104 shares. So here's this week's 7-day dinner menu that will make your life easier. So it solves a problem, because they even tell you it makes your life easier. And People love something that they can get that will make their lives easier, something that will solve a problem. This does that, and they might want to share it because they'll say, oh, I found this super useful, and maybe my followers will find it super useful too. So other examples, like examples that would be more relevant to the tourism industry, would be like maybe you have a list of 10 things to do in your town that you can share. Maybe it's a blog post, so maybe it's a link, but maybe the list is just in the post, in the Facebook post, in the Instagram post. Maybe you share like the best places to watch the sunrise or the sunset in your area. Maybe it's the best beaches within a 30-minute drive of your area. Maybe you have packing tips from the innkeeper, packing tips from the pro. Different things like that. Like there's any number of things that you could use to create some really highly shareable content. And here's another example. This is from one of my clients. This is a did you know? So it's something, a surprising fact, a surprising stat. Did you know that sea cucumbers are heroes who always help out the little guy? They've been known to let small sea creatures take refuge in their anus. Of course, they also help us stay healthy with their powerful punch of antioxidants, amino acids, and other vitamins and minerals. Who knew sea cucumbers were so heroic? So this one's kind of funny and also a surprising fact. Like, who knew that? I have to tell you, I did not know that until I started working with a sea cucumber company. So it's a little bit cheeky, a little funny, and also talks about the benefits of the product, and as well as giving a little surprising fact. So this was something that was shareable because it's edutainment, definitely. Maybe a little bit gross, but yeah, so that was a little fact that we shared. All right, another tip for increasing engagement. People, as you know, people's attention spans are super duper short on social media. We are scrolling at lightning speed on social media. We're on our phones, we're scrolling through, no matter what platform it is. We spend very little time on each post. So you really need to grab people's attention within a second. And you can do that by posting really eye-catching photos. So make sure, and there is definitely a place for candid shots as well. But definitely it's a good idea to invest in some really nice looking photos, whether those are photos of your establishment, the food that you're serving, the rooms that you have, the artifacts in your museum, the scenery, the landscaping, any number of things that you can have beautiful photos of. There are a lot of photographers out there. There's a lot of really people who can take wonderful photos. You can take wonderful photos with your phone, or you can also use a big honking camera. You don't need to spend a lot on photography, but just sometimes really great composition with a phone is, can produce some really wonderful photos. So eye-catching photos are great, especially on Instagram. Use video. So, and if you do use video, and I do encourage everyone to experiment with video, you have to really grab people's attention, like I said, within a second. So, you'll see a lot of videos that just start with, hey guys, I just wanted to hop on here to say something. And you've lost me. Like, that doesn't grab anyone's attention. You want to get straight into it. I have a tip to share with you, or, I want to show you how to do something, learn how to make the chef's favorite dish, or whatever. Grab people's attention right away. Don't waste a second with a greeting. No, we don't need the greeting. Just get straight into it. So use video and grab people's attention right away. I've seen a lot of videos where they start with the end product, especially if it's like, you know, a recipe or a how to do something. They start with an quick image or a quick shot of the end product, and then they get into how to do it. So that really grabs your attention because you're like, ooh, how is that done? And then they get straight into how to do it. That's a great way of grabbing people's attention right away, stopping the scroll, because you've really grabbed people. Or you can also start with, you know, something like, you know, if we had done a video about sea cucumbers, if we started with the fact that sea cucumbers let small sea creatures take refuge in their anus, then, you know, that would stop the scroll. That would stop it. It might also make people just keep scrolling because they don't want to hear about that. So who knows? Depends on who your target audience is. Post carousels on Instagram. So carousels are the posts that have multiple images and you have to like swipe sideways through to see all of the images. The great thing about carousels is they will appear in your followers' feeds with the first image as the focus the first time. If your follower doesn't swipe through and look at all of the images in your carousel, it will appear to them a second time with the second image as the primary focus. If your post just has one image, it won't appear in your followers' feed twice. So carousels are really great to take advantage of. We've had really great success with them with a hotel that we've been working with. So because they have a lot, they're a hotel and resort, they have a lot going on. So we post a carousel with like maybe a photo of a room and a photo of the grounds and a photo of the food and, you know, a photo of an excursion or something that you can do there. So those posts are the best performing posts for that resort on Instagram, just because they show up in people's feeds more than once. If people didn't like it the first time, it'll show up again, and maybe they'll like it the second time, or maybe they'll leave a comment, or maybe they'll share it, who knows. But yeah, really great way. And you just need to, when you're posting to Instagram, just post more than one photo. That's how you do a carousel. It doesn't have to be fancy, like the photos don't have to, sometimes you'll see some that the photos all fit together really nicely. It doesn't matter, they can be all different individual photos. They need to be joined somehow by what is described in the text. They all need to be relevant, I would say. But you know, if it was an event or something and you have 5 different photos from that event that you want to share, sort of like we did with Beer Fest, you know, at the end of each day for Beer Fest, we posted a bunch of photos together in a carousel. You know, great engagement on those. Post photos of real people. So we've talked about, you know, the about us pillar, or when you're creating your content pillars, the photos about the people behind the business, photos of the owners, photos of employees, photos of your favorite customers, photos of people who have visited you. They posted some photos of their family at your museum. Though all of those types of posts perform well. Photos of stock images, photos of people that no one knows, those tend to fall flat. And you know, if you have hired models, those tend to not perform as well as photos of real people. So you don't need to invest in anything fancy. You just need to have people who are willing to have their photo taken. And I know that can be a big challenge. We were at a restaurant yesterday taking photos, and we wanted to do a profile of one of the employees, and not one person volunteered. Not surprising. So they're sometimes really hard to get those posts, but they will just perform so well for you. Anytime you post photos of people that people recognize, They like it, they comment on it. It's great. We did one with the Deon Oyster that we work with. We did one this week of one of their employees, just like Meat Hunter. It was, you know, a picture of him, his name, where he lives, his favorite way to enjoy an oyster, his favorite thing about working at Deon Oysters, and that was that. And, you know, again, it's a top performing post. So photos of real people, try to get your employees to consent to being in a post. They're really great posts. It really humanizes your company and makes people identify with your company, makes people want to like be friends and engage, makes people more invested in your success on social media, really grows your community. And that's what organic social media is all about. It's growing a community of engaged users. So try to get your people to consent to being in a social media post. And another way of stopping the scroll is to add text to your images. So we've found this with some of our clients, especially if you do a contest or a giveaway. If you don't have the word contest or giveaway in the image, your engagement will go way down. So if you're doing a contest or giveaway, do not put the words contest or giveaway in the text because that will draw spam. Put it in the image and it'll stop the scroll, it'll stop the spam, and it'll increase engagement. So there's a little tip. Also, if you're linking to, like, maybe you have a blog post, maybe it's the blog post about the 5 best beaches within a 30-minute drive of our inn or something like that. You have a picture of one of the beaches and you have in the image, maybe you have the 5 best beaches, you know, five best local beaches, 5 best beaches close to whatever inn it is. That will stop the scroll because people, you know, people love a nice picture of a beach, but if it's giving them some education as well, it's giving them a useful tip, it's giving them something that they might want to follow through with and click through or share or, you know, take some sort of action, engage with it, then it's more likely to stop the scroll and get people to engage. So think about adding some text. You don't need to add text to all of your images, but when it's relevant, when you're sharing a really valuable tip, or you really want people to take a certain call to action, adding some text to your image is a great idea. Maybe you want people to comment. Maybe you put your question in the image instead of in the text of your post. We talked about asking meaningful questions last week or the week before. And I think we'll talk about it a little bit more very soon. But you can put the actual question in the image. I've also heard from one person on a webinar once who said that when they post a question on Facebook that they want their community to engage with, their question gets more answers if it doesn't have an image, which was very surprising to me because usually images stop the scroll. However, sometimes, and you'll see this on Twitter too, sometimes if you just have a question that you want people to answer, and you know, radio stations do this a lot, they'll have the question as a post, just the text, no image, on Twitter and on Facebook, and it'll get tons of engagement. Whereas if they have an image, sometimes the engagement goes down. I have no idea why. I honestly, I was completely flummoxed, but I've seen it many times. So that's why we experiment. That's why we try different things to see what performs best. So always experiment, and then at the end of the month, look back on your posts from the previous month and see what performed really well, what didn't, and then make notes to maybe change your strategy as you go based on what's working and what's not working, because it's never an exact science. All right. Any questions? We're just going to go into some more tips for increasing engagement. But if you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A. I'm happy to answer all of your questions. All right, I'll talk a bit more, but like I said, put your questions in the Q&A if you have any. So we're just going to go through a bunch more ideas and just, make note. Some of these might resonate with you. You might come up with some great ideas for different posts that you can do that will increase your engagement. Just get your pens handy. So we talked, I think I mentioned many times, social media is social. So think conversation, not broadcast. So that's why, oh, I see a question in the Q&A. A question from Bella. Is there a good way to pull the engagement data from Instagram and or Facebook? Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, actually, just go back here. So the easiest way on Instagram is just to look. You can see on every one of your posts, you'll see your insights, and you can just add up your engagements, so your likes, comments, your shares, and divide it by your impressions times 100, and then you'll get your engagement rate. So that's the best way to do it on Instagram. Facebook used to have this lovely thing. I don't think I have Facebook open, but I just have to log in. Bear with me for a moment. And it always gives me a 2FA. 2FA code. Okay. So if your Facebook has updated, then I don't think it's super easy to get your engagement rate, but if your Facebook hasn't updated yet, like this one, if you go into insights on your page, so insights and then posts, you can see all of your recent posts and it gives you all of this data. So this is super awesome. You can toggle here in the drop down for engagement rate. So it'll give you the engagement rate on all of your posts, which is great. So then you can just sort of look quickly through and see what, had the highest engagement rate and what maybe had a lower engagement rate. So that's, but a lot of people, your Facebook has probably updated and you don't have this anymore. So if I look at, just going to grab another page that I manage. If I just look at my own page, and hang on. Facebook is so weird. There's like all these different, no, that's not what I want. Hang on. It's like some pages update and some pages don't, and they're all different. Okay, now I'm going to wordcraft. All right, so look at insights and posts. Okay, those are stories. And it doesn't give me any data, which is so weird. Yeah, that's interesting. All right, so on actual posts, it gives me some data, but not a ton. Yeah, Facebook is weird. Bella says, so glad it's not just me. I know. So what we've been doing, so you can use a third-party tool. We use Agorapulse. I think I mentioned that last time. So you can use some kind of third-party tool. There's Hootsuite, there's Buffer, there's all kinds of them, and they will give you reports, which is amazing. It'll tell you all kinds of information about your engagement, your clicks, your comments, your shares. It'll also give you the context about your different posts, the top content, and you can toggle this by reach or by engagements. And it also tells you the best time of day to publish, which is great. So most of the different social media management tools like Hootsuite, like Sprout, we use Agorapulse, Buffer, Later, Planoly, there's all kinds of them. They will give you lots of data that you'll be able to look at the end of the month. You can also schedule reports, and you can do this for any of these different tools. Schedule a report, it'll just email it to you at the end of the month. It'll show you what the performance was for the previous month. I think Facebook is just making it more difficult to get data for some reason. I don't know. It's not fun because, you know, as you can see here, I'm getting zero data on all of these different stories, which is just bananas. So what we do is we use a third-party tool. You have to pay for them, which can be a little bit cost prohibitive for some small businesses. Totally understand that. But there are free versions of a lot of the different tools. Like I think Hootsuite has a free version. I'm not sure about Later and Planoly. I know a lot of smaller businesses use those because I think they're maybe less expensive, or maybe there's a free version. But yeah, it's just, Facebook used to make it so easy to find data, and now it's not so easy. Another way that you could get your information is to just go through your posts like on your feed and sort of add up the different engagements. So the different likes that you've had, and divide it by the impressions. It used to show impressions right on. Yeah, it doesn't show impressions. What a conundrum. Yeah, just see the same thing. Just gonna look if it. Okay, it does tell me the impressions. Tells me the engagements, but I think that calculates other clicks, which I wouldn't consider other clicks an engagement. I would only consider reactions, comments, link clicks, and shares. Those would be engagements. Other clicks, that's just like someone who has clicked somewhere on the post. They've either clicked like see more, or they've clicked to see different comments. Like they've clicked somewhere, but it's not necessarily, I wouldn't count that as an engagement. But some of the different platforms added in, I don't know why. So I would add these up, the top ones, and divide it by your post impressions times 100. So Facebook just made it really hard to find your engagement rate, which is annoying. Sorry about that. I think there's another question. Does Facebook favor posts that are added natively to their content calendar versus using third-party tools like Later, Buffer, Hootsuite? Yeah, so from I've looked into this before, and from everything that I've seen, there is no difference based on where you post from. I don't know if Shelley, if you've seen otherwise, but based on what I've seen, there is no difference in engagement, whether you post natively. So you're like on your phone and you post to Instagram from your phone right there and then, or whether you use a third-party tool like we use Agorapulse, and you can post through, like we schedule all of our posts through Agorapulse this way. So we just type it in with the image and then schedule. So you can do it that way, or you can do it directly through Instagram, through Twitter, through the app, through the desktop, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Facebook doesn't care. Instagram doesn't care. None of them care where it comes from. I've seen some reports that say that you get less engagement if you use a third-party tool, but I haven't found that. I've found that doesn't matter where the post comes from. So that's my answer there. Let me know if you've seen otherwise. All right. And keep the questions coming if you've got more questions. I hope I answered some of them. So we were talking about meaningful conversations and the algorithms promoting meaningful conversations because social media is social. So we talked about this a bit in the what to post, in the where, when, and what to post, but ask meaningful questions to get meaningful conversations. So none of those yes, no questions, none of those closed questions, or no rhetorical questions. If they don't actually have an answer, don't bother asking them. Ask questions that you would be compelled to answer. So usually that is sharing an opinion or sharing a story. So what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? That's an opinion question. Can also be a story question if you have a story about your favorite flavor of ice cream. Like once we asked, I was doing social media for Farmers Dairy, and we did a contest where we asked people what their favorite flavor of ice cream was, and one person, thanks to autocorrect, posted maple walnut instead of maple walnut, and now maple walnut will never be maple walnut to me ever again. It is always maple walnut. So there's a favorite flavor and a story. It has an opinion and a story. What's the coolest thing you've ever found while beachcombing on the beach? What was your favorite Halloween costume? What is your best travel tip? What was the worst job you ever had? All of those are either opinion questions or story questions or both. And those are all questions that I would be compelled to answer. Like I would share my little maple walnut story. Someone asked me about favorite flavor of ice cream. So ask questions that you think you would be compelled to answer, or more importantly, your ideal customer would be compelled to answer. Definitely use polls. So Twitter has polls, LinkedIn has polls, and they perform like fire on LinkedIn. Polls are great. On Instagram stories, you can post polls, you can post questions. There's the little slidey thing where you can like say how excited you are about something, or, you know, the slidey thing, if you know, you know. All of those different engagement tools that exist on the different social media platforms, use them. Like they're there to be used. Instagram has that slidey thing because they want people to use the slidey thing. And the poll functions are there. Facebook used to have a poll function, but I believe they phased it out. But you know, all those different little engagement tools, use them. They help increase engagement for real. Test your followers' knowledge. You can do trivia. People love answering trivia questions like, what percentage of people do you think do this? You know, I don't know, any kinds of questions. What year do you think our restaurant opened? Trivia, yeah. Radio stations do that really well. They do trivia, then they, you know, answer the question later in the show or something. But you don't have to be a radio station. You can still post trivia. It's a lot of fun. If you could do it like with a carousel on Instagram, you could have the question on the first image and then you slide for the answer. That's a great way of doing trivia questions. So, and plus you're posting a carousel that increases engagement. So that's a great idea. Write that one down. It's a good one. Do an ask me anything. So if you're an expert in your field, and you probably all are, you're probably all an expert at something. Tell people you're going to do a live video where you'll answer everyone's questions about whatever it is that you're an expert in. Or maybe you just say, you know, I'm going to answer them in my Instagram stories. We're going to answer all of your questions about our restaurant. You know, maybe not all of them, because we're not going to reveal any of our secret recipes. But yeah, tell people you want to answer their questions. You can do that in Instagram stories and have the little box where people can type in a question, and then you just gather all the questions and do an ask me anything, either a live video or just a bunch of different videos, or it can be in text, you know, whatever. It helps position you as a thought leader and someone who really knows their stuff. So it helps instill confidence in your brand, in your company. We talked a bit about reactive and proactive engagement in the first webinar in the what to post. So reactive engagement is when you answer the comments and messages that are posted on your company's social media posts. And then proactive engagement is when you go out and post comments or engage with other accounts, whether they're, you know, other accounts in your industry, other accounts in your geographic area, accounts of influencers that you would really like to engage with, those types of things. So definitely do some, you know, as I've said before, answer all of your comments, but also engage with other people, because social media, it's a two-way street, it's conversation. So be sure to use your business's account to engage with other people, like their posts, comment on their posts, share their posts as well. Engage with everyone, because that makes people want to engage with you more. And yeah, so those are a few different tips, and I have a few more examples to share. So we talked about asking questions that people would be, that your ideal customer would be compelled to answer. So this one was by a pet company. The dog wisdom is real. We asked for your dog's social distancing advice, and your answers did not disappoint. What other dog logic do you have? So if you can smell their butt, you're too close. So this was a certain dog that had answered that. So this is definitely relevant to their ideal audience, getting dogs to post their social distancing advice. So yeah, post a question that your ideal customer would be compelled to answer. This is an example. And another thing, you know, we talked about in the what to post, we talked about having a call to action, a clear call to action, where you're telling people what you want them to do if you want them to like a post. So this is an example of that. Like if you agree. And then you can see down here, there's almost 12,000 likes. So this was just, you know, a quote, an inspirational quote. And then the only text was like this if you agree. Simple. This might not work for everyone, but it's just an example of telling people what you want them to do, and then they do it. If you want people to comment, tell them to. If you want people to share, tell them to. If you want them to like, tell them to. If you want them to click a link, tell them to do it. If you want them to DM you, tell them to do it. You don't have to tell people outright for every post, but if people know what they're supposed to do, they're more likely to do it. So it's a good example of a clear call to action. Very clear. And it's not, you know, I've seen some posts where they have more than one call to action, and that really confuses people, because if they have like if you agree, and then they're also asking the question, what do you do? Do you like it, or do you answer the question? Hard to know. So, you know, have one clear call to action. If you're using a clear call to action on your post, just have one. no need to have a link and asking a question, or share this post and also, you know, I don't know, share this post and ask a question that people are supposed to answer in the comments. Just ask them to do one thing. And then you can also experiment with all kinds of different content. And I mentioned, you know, there are no rules to social media. It's really about testing and learning. Experimenting is a big part of that. You never know what kind of content will get the most attention and the most engagement until you give it a try. And, you know, there's so many different social media platforms, and they all work a little bit differently. They all have a slightly different audience. Their algorithms are all different. So you can try a bunch of different content on different platforms and see what performs well on each platform. Like I was mentioning, when we pull a report through AgoraPulse at the end of the month, we look at what posts perform the best. So here, the top content. So we look at what performed the best on, this is for Facebook, but then we also look at, you know, what performed the best on Instagram and see how it's different from what's performing best on Facebook for the same brand, but completely different posts that perform best. So it's great to have a look at what is, you know, how your posts are performing on each different social media platform if you're on more than one. So these are a bunch of different types of content that you can experiment with. Just a bunch of ideas. Take notes if there's something that resonates with you, or resonates with your business, like a behind the scenes tour. People love taking a peek behind the curtain to see what happens behind the scenes. Maybe that's behind the scenes in your museum. Maybe you have a collections closet where you have, you know, artifacts that aren't necessarily on display. Maybe it's, you know, going into the archives and seeing what exists there, all of the different documents that people don't normally see. Customer spotlights. So if you have really loyal customers, and you know, the restaurant that we work with has certain customers that come, you know, every Friday. So they could do a little spotlight on those customers that come every Friday for whatever it is. People love those types of things. Again, you're posting real people that people can relate with. It helps your ideal audience put themselves in the shoes of someone who's having a great experience at your business. Maybe it's, you know, the family from PEI that comes to your cottages at the end of August every year or something like that. If you can get them to consent to doing a little social media post, really great. Live video events. We've talked a bit about live video before. Especially on Facebook, live video does really well. Again, I know that video can be a little daunting, but you only get better at it when you do it. So it's definitely worth it to experiment with live video and see how it performs. It's great if you can tell people you're going to go live at a certain time to sort of guarantee that people will be there, because like I mentioned earlier, there's nothing worse than talking to an empty room of people. And also, if you have some loyal customers and you can get them to agree that they will be present for your live video, that's another bonus, because then you're guaranteeing that you're not talking to an empty room. At least you have like a few loyal people who will be there, guaranteed that they will show up. But it's if you create a post ahead of time saying that you're going live at 10 a.m. on Thursday, whatever it is, then people are more likely to show up because they'll remember. You can even create an event so that people get a reminder that you're going live. And then once you are live, people will see in their notifications that, you know, such and such has gone live. So it gives them a little prompt, because Facebook doesn't really want you to talk to an empty room either. So, and Instagram does this as well. They'll give your followers who are online a little prompt saying that you're going live, which is great. It helps really bring people to the room so that you're not alone talking to yourself. Infographics. So that's another thing that can perform really well. We've done that before with some clients. I'm going to see if I can pull up an example. They're really fun because it gives people a lot of information in like visually. So it can stop the scroll because people want to read what's happening in that infographic. This is the sea cucumber company that we work with. So this is one, but it's not the best example. It's not the one I'm looking for. Okay, here's the one I'm looking for. So this was an infographic that we did for them. So it's kind of the history of the company. Atlantic sea cucumber harvest begins in 2001. They started scientific analysis with Dalhousie in 2003. They started doing some third-party research and lab testing in 2010. Dalhousie's research paper was completed and journaled in 2013. They started testing supplements. 2015, they did the market analysis for sea cucumber supplements in the same year. They got the Health Canada NPN, and then they launched their first sea cucumber supplement in 2019. So it's a long road, but this is like, you know, very interesting to anyone who likes data and can really stop the scroll, because people want to read, okay, what is that? Like, what is that infographic all about? So if you know someone who is proficient in design, or you can even grab a Canva template sometimes to create some sort of infographic. Those are definitely some types of content to experiment with. Quotes and testimonials, we saw as I was scrolling through the sea cucumber company. You can see that we share a lot of different testimonials. So this was a little testimonial from a customer. They all have the same sort of look and feel. Some of them have a photo of the person, which is even better, because photos of people, although you can't really see him, he's carrying a big box of lobster or fish. Yeah, so if you have testimonials from your customers, that's great kind of content to share, great content to experiment with. And there are different questions that you can ask to get someone's testimonial. Some good questions to ask include asking them what their experience was like before they used your service, your product, before they came to your establishment, what they liked best about staying with you, visiting you, what they would say to a friend if they wanted to come visit Nova Scotia, what made them choose to stay, to visit, to eat at your restaurant. Yeah, there's a bunch of different questions, like open-ended questions that you can ask and get people to leave a really nice testimonial. Otherwise, you can just grab whatever people have posted on TripAdvisor or on Google Reviews or on Facebook. Sorry about that. Yeah, so you can grab whatever people have posted on Yelp, TripAdvisor, any number of pages where people leave reviews, and post those. It's really great content. Video Q&A, again, it's sort of like Ask Me Anything, asking people to send you some questions. or even getting, you know, some of your friends to give you some questions so that you can answer them if none of your followers ask questions. This or that questions. So we used to see this quite a bit on Instagram. We don't see it quite as much now, but it's sort of like using different polls, asking people, do they prefer this? Do they prefer that? It gets people to engage. It's just another type of content to experiment. Like, do you prefer it could be different types of food, it could be different accommodations, it could be, do you prefer going to the beach or going to the lake? Are you, you know, do you read in the garden or do you read inside? I don't know, you probably have all kinds of ideas on different this or that questions that you could ask your audience. But it's just, you know, another type of content to experiment with. Contests and giveaways, we talked about this briefly. I can give you a few tips on doing contests. On average, when people post contests, they do the like and share and tag type contests. So they ask people to like their post, share it, and tag a friend. On Facebook, that doesn't fly because Facebook's terms and guidelines for promotions doesn't allow people to tag someone in the comments on the post. So if you are running that kind of content, you're asking people to share or asking people to tag, to share the post or tag a friend, that technically goes against Facebook's guidelines for promotions. So if you do that kind of contest on Facebook, you run the risk of losing your account, which is not cool. No one wants that to happen. So what we do when we run contests is we do comment-based contests. We ask a question and we get people to answer it in the comments. And this complies with all of the Facebook and Instagram rules for promotions. So it not only complies, but it also helps you get free market research. So when you ask a question, make it a meaningful question, make it a question that you want to know more about your audience. Make it, you know, a market research question and get people to answer it in the comments, and each comment is an entry. And then you can use, there's a website called exportcomments.com. And you can just put the link to your post, whether it's a Facebook post or an Instagram post, and it'll export all of the different comments that came in on that post into an Excel spreadsheet. And then you can just pick a random winner that way. Makes it really easy and gives you free market research, free insight. So that's how we always run contests. The old comment-based contest is what we do. I see the share and tag a friend contests all the time. Those also often draw a lot of spam. So the comment-based contest is less likely to draw spam, which is nice because spam is super uncool. And sometimes you'll get a spammer that will, you know, like pretend to be your account and they'll tell people that they've won. They're just trying to get people's personal information and getting them to try to click a link so that they can steal their personal information. Not cool at all. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on contests. And also, like I mentioned earlier, put the word contest or giveaway in the image instead of in the post copy. That also will help keep the spammers away. So because they will look for posts that have like the word giveaway in the text or the word contest in the text, so they can start scamming people that way. But if you have it in the image, it's not as searchable. And another kind of content to experiment with is animated GIFs and memes. So we talked about GIFs before, really short videos that play over and over and over again. You can create them on any number of websites. If you just search create a GIF, you can create them out of an existing video that you have, or you can make an animation, or it can be a stop motion thing. Memes are a lot of fun too. If there's a certain image or short video that has gone viral and you can find a way to incorporate it into your brand, that can be a lot of fun. So memes, like, I don't know what there's been lately. Oh, there was, this one sort of ended, but there was the like Little Miss. You remember the Little Miss books? So there were people who were doing like Little Miss, whatever it was, Little Miss like loves Nova Scotia or something, and have the Little Miss character. So that was a meme that could be, that you could jump on, or a trend that you could jump on with a meme. So they're, you know, little trending images. Usually there's some text on the image, and it's usually trending, and a bunch of people are making you like adapting it to their own business. So that's just another idea that you can experiment with. All right, I feel like I've dropped a lot of knowledge bombs, and I hope you found it useful. I hope you got a lot of tips. I hope you thought of different ways to increase engagement and new ways of increasing engagement. I am still available for more questions. And as Jingwen mentioned earlier, if you want to book a one-on-one meeting with me for free, you can do it through Digiport. And that's all my contact information. If you ever have more questions, feel free to reach out, yeah, on Instagram or on email. Shelley says thank you. Well, thank you, Shelley, for attending. It's great. I appreciate all of you for attending today. And yeah, I have some time. So if you have more questions, feel free to ask them. And if you don't, then you can enjoy the not overly warm weather. That's kind of nice right now. It's nice that it's not 30 degrees anymore. However, I could still stand a few more beach days.
Thank you, Ingrid. These are very helpful tips for increasing engagement on social media posts.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad. This is my favorite, one of my favorite topics.
Yeah. Oh, I have a question.
Yeah,
from Bella. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Bella
sure,
has a question from previous webinars, I believe.
Of course, yeah. Any questions, cool. All right, when I am advertising an event, how much is too much? I'm not sure. Like how many posts do you mean? Like how often? Yeah. Good question. Definitely, you might think that you're posting too much, but you're not, because not everyone is going to see all of your posts. So I would err on the side of posting what you think is too much instead of not posting very much. So if you have an event coming up, as you're getting closer to the event, you might want to post every day. When you're a little bit further from the event, maybe you're posting, it depends, you know, on how big the event is. Like we just did Beer Fest, and for a couple of months leading up to Beer Fest, we were just posting, I think 2 to 3, maybe 4 times a week. But then the week before Beer Fest, we were posting every day. And then during the event, we were posting a lot. So as you get closer to the event, I would definitely post more often. And, you know, again, depending on how big the event is, if you're doing lots of events, then maybe you're not posting quite as much. But with Beer Fest, like it's just once a year. So we were posting a lot leading up to the event. But yeah, I would definitely err on the side of posting more, especially if you're only doing organic. If you're boosting your posts, then you don't need to post as often because the ad spend will show your post to more people. So yeah, for organic, you definitely need to do various posts leading up to the event, but for an ad, you don't need to do as many posts. I do a this month post, but within the week I do 3 posts and a couple of stories. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think that's too much at all. You're saying what's going on this month, and then within the week of the post, you're doing 3 posts. Yeah, definitely. I don't think that's too much. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a good cadence to stick to. Yeah, you're welcome. Great question. Love that. Oh, I can't hear you, Gina.
Just a friendly reminder, we will have another round of social media management webinars in this fall. If you want to join us again, we welcome you to join again if you want.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Mm-hmm. And Shelly will be doing 3 sessions as well, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shelly is with us today also. And I want to say thank you to both of you for sharing this wonderful knowledge and social media strategies with us.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me, and it's been a lot of fun, and I love doing it.
Welcome. And all attendees, we really appreciate your time and support for our social media management program.
Yes, absolutely. It's great having an engaged group of people.
Yeah. Yeah, if no one has questions, we can end the webinar today. And really thank you, and hope you will enjoy the rest of summer. We hope to see you again. Okay, take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Great. Bye.